That was Swedish activist Greta Thunberg there. Well, let's bring in Kieran Andrieu, who is a British-Palestinian journalist who is also on board the flotilla, and he joins me live now. Thank you so much, Kieran, for joining us here on the programme. You were detained. Just talk us through what happened, because we know, there was a convoy of about 42 of these vessels, about 500 people. It was perhaps one of the largest we've ever seen. And then, of course, we saw and heard that the IDF had boarded the flotilla. And then just talk me through what happened to you and those who were with you.
Yeah, so as you say, we were boarded. We were intercepted in international waters. My boat was about 70 nautical miles from the coast of Gaza. So for those who don't know, 12 nautical miles from the coast counts as territorial waters. 70 nautical miles, of course, very far outside of territorial waters. So it was an illegal interception. We were then taken to the port of Ashdod in Israel. We were dragged off the boats. We were thrown to the floor. We were forced to to rest on our knees, facing downwards, with our hands tied behind our backs with cable ties. This went on for some people for as long as 6 hours. I was there for about 2.5 hours. One by one, we were kind of called into a processing centre at the port of Ashdod. I was called in, as I say, about 2.5 hours in. I went in, I was fast-tracked through various systems, and then I had my hands tied again, taken onto a bus and driven 2 hours away from the processing centre to the Negev desert. And I only found out I was in the Negev desert when the British Consular General came to visit the day after we'd been illegally imprisoned in the Negev desert. And I said to him, "Where are we?" And he explained that we were indeed in the Negev desert, in a prison complex that Israel built originally to torture Palestinian inmates. So, and then when we were there, the experience was utterly parlous. I mean, several tenets of international humanitarian law were violated. Several principles of the Geneva Convention were violated. We were denied water. As I say, it was in the middle of a desert, so it was very, very hot. Small, corrugated cells, makeshift cells, absorbed a lot of heat. We were denied water in that context. It was 10 people to a cell. We had to drink out of a tap in the toilets that produced feculent water infected with fecal matter, brown water. And when we pointed this out to the guards, they just sneered and said they didn't care. People were denied essential medicine. I saw various people in their 60s, 70s and even 80s denied their essential medicine. People who had heart conditions, one guy who's HIV positive needed his meds, a guy who needed meds to avoid having seizures, which could potentially be fatal. And the guards said time after time to person after person, "We don't care. There's no medicine for animals," and so on, things like that. This is what they're willing to do to predominantly white Europeans, US passport holders, French passport holders, German passport, British. Imagine what they are willing to do to Palestinians if they're willing to do that to us.
Kieran, Israeli authorities say that the area you were in was an active combat zone, and they had warned that this would happen again if you they warned that they would do this if you entered that area. Just tell us the purpose of why you were there. Israeli authorities are describing this as a publicity stunt.
Well, first of all, the Israelis make it up as they go along with regards to international law. I mean, it is very clear that if you intercept boats in international waters, you are violating first humanitarian law and maritime law. Second of all, territorial waters outside of Gaza under international legal frameworks are not Israeli waters. They're waters that belong to a future Palestinian state under international law. So this was a double violation. What we were trying to do was very, very simple. It's not any more complex than this or any more invidious than this. We were trying to bring baby formula, food and medicine to people who have suffered the worst genocide of the 21st century, the people of Gaza. And it's incredible for Israel to cause such utter destruction in Gaza and then say, no, this is an active combat zone, therefore you cannot enter it. As I say, that's completely fabricated. That's an artificial obstruction What's real is international law. What's real is that we were intercepted in international waters, and we were doing it, as I say, to bring humanitarian aid to people who are being starved. 92% of buildings in Gaza are destroyed. All of the education facilities are destroyed. 50% of children in Gaza want to commit suicide. This is the context in which we were trying to bring, as I say, baby formula, food, basic medicines. And it's the context in which Israel, in order to prevent that from happening, because it really doesn't want anybody in Gaza to receive any of those basic things, Israel is willing to create an artificial obstruction and expects the world to buy it. It's transparent nonsense.
Kieran Andrieu, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you for having me.
And we approached Israeli authorities for comment about how the activists are treated, but they have not responded.